All of this information that I provide you today will inform you of what the entry-level driver training is, ELDT. It will inform you of the training requirements, okay? You've all been trained on what ELDT is. We know that our manual is ELDT compliant. We just have a couple of things to add to that, okay? So the first thing is February 7th, 2022. If you have been here for any period of time, you have heard this date. This is the date that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration will require anyone applying for a new commercial driver's license or specific endorsement to complete the entry-level driver training, ELDT. Anyone who has obtained the commercial learner's permit prior to this date does not need to complete the ELDT. And school districts will be able to skip the ELDT requirements of this document for those applicants, okay? So if they already have their CLPT or CLP prior to February 7th, you can skip the paperwork part of this for the federal reporting. So the training provider registry. Training providers, which is the school district, not the trainers, will need to register on the FMCSA Training Provider Registry. Training providers will use the website to upload certification documents for applicants completing ELDT. Training providers also must ensure that they log in annually to provide to verify that their provider information is accurate. If not registered and approved, they cannot train for CDL. So what this means is you as driver trainers do not go in and register for the training provider registry. That is only for the directors and superintendents unless you have been designated. If you have been designated, please use your director's email. Well, you kind of got to be careful because you're attesting that your district is going to comply with all of ELDT, your classrooms comply, and your range complies. So with that being said, as driver trainers, you do not need to go in and register. That is up to your superintendent or your director. So what to do if they don't have a CDL? In Kentucky, most of our applicants do not already have a CDL and will require entry-level driver training. Currently, most school districts assist applicants through the specific CDL training to help them pass the CLP test. However, not all districts do this. Any school district that does not help applicants study for their permit will surely lose applicants as it's not easy to pass. Okay, so those of you who are not providing assistance for your folks to get their permit probably are already finding it hard because they are coming in, you're giving them the document to study, and then you don't see them again. You need to remember that they don't know what to really study. You know, as driver trainers, you can guide them through that process. So if you have permit tests to share with them, online permit tests that they can study from, you know, certainly share that information with them. Once an applicant has received their CLP, a school district will need to ensure ELDT is complete. This means they will either provide it to them, find another school district that will provide it, or have an applicant go to a CDL school. The school district may have to pay for the student to have the training if they wish the applicant to come back. Students who go to a CDL school may be eligible to have their CDL class fully or partially paid for, depending on their specific circumstances. Students whose CDL classes are partially paid for may have the rest paid for by the school district. CDL schools include the cost of the permit, physical, drug tests, and CDL testing. So you're probably thinking, what is she talking about? In October, I started the process with the Workforce Development Proprietary Education coordinator to find out if any CDL schools were willing to provide training, as at that time we were over 1,200 drivers needed in the state. So I reached out to them, and I have 2 CDL schools that are willing to train for Class B with P and S endorsements. They had to go through a process. They are registered and licensed with the state to provide that. So there are going to be costs associated with it, and that's going to be between you guys and the CDL school. So here's the deal. This is not to take away your job. This is to help make your job a little bit easier right now because we have a shortage of drivers. And if it works out for you, you may decide to do it going forward. And what it is it is where the CDL school goes from the permit phase all the way to the licensing phase, so that when the drivers are done, they come to you with their license and you can start our curriculum. Okay, you don't have to worry about ELDT. You don't have to worry about if they pass the permit test or any of that stuff. Okay, the CDL school does it all from permit all the way to licensing. Okay, so it is new. One school in Kentucky already provided the Class B, but they did not do the P and S endorsement. We are, and I forgot to mention this yesterday, looking for school buses that they can purchase to have on their lot for practice. So I've reached out to some of you as directors to see if you had anything available. But again, it is just for the CDL. It has nothing to do with our Kentucky curriculum, okay? So driver trainers, you still have a job to do. In addition, one of the CDL schools prior to February, which you'll understand why, is willing to travel to regions or districts to help provide this. So if you guys are interested, please reach out to them. We know that as driver trainers, you don't have the time. You're always on routes. You are doing the midday routes, you're doing the morning routes, you're doing the afternoon routes. You don't have anybody else to cover for you. Therefore, your applicants, it's taking a longer time for them to get their license, okay? With that being said, they have a designated class at the CDL school in order to provide them training that they need, and they can get through it in a much quicker time frame because they're there 7 to 8 hours a day. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you guys process how do we fix our issue. Okay, how can we get some help? With that being said, also, if there's any directors on this call, there are funds that may be able to help you can use your ESSER funds to provide this training, because this is directly related to COVID, the lack of drivers and, you know, and whatnot. The different grants that are available can range from the VA grant if they're veterans, farmers grant if they were farmers or are farmers, and what they call WIOA, which is a workforce innovation grant. So there are grants that are out there available to them. What you will do is, if you have an applicant, you'll reach out to the school that you choose for CDL and verify, you know, tell them that you're going to send someone to see if they qualify for a grant, and then you can go from there on how payment works, okay? So the school district providing the ELDT training. Any school district that provides the training shall follow FMCSA requirements. This isn't a choice. This is by the feds, and they will be doing audits throughout the country. They've already told us they plan on going out and making sure people comply. When a school district registers for the training provider registry, they attest that their facilities and their equipment are within the guidelines for training. This attestation means that applicants, students, must receive training in a clean, safe classroom environment. They cannot be taught in a bus garage bay. They can't be outside. They can't be in any other type of environment. They have to be in a clean classroom environment And something I didn't mention yesterday, you have to have a bathroom for them to go. They cannot, let's see, the school district also is attesting that their trainers will follow all state and federal guidelines when training. The FMCSA may audit a district at any time. Any district not following the requirements may lose the ability to train new drivers. In addition, the drivers that they have trained may have to retake the ELDT. So we're going to talk about the training process for the school districts. KDE has created the training manual. If you don't have it, it's in SharePoint. We also have created videos and documents to help districts meet the requirements of 49 CFR 380 subparts D, E, F, and G, and appendixes B, C, and D. The videos and additional documents will be available to you prior to February 7th. The documents that we created you're going to see today. We're going to go over them, and it will be emailed to you on Monday. Any training videos that KDE has created should be shown in addition to the manual, okay? Because KSP didn't think that we covered enough of a certain area, and then we wanted to kind of give you kind of a supplement to having to say everything. We've put it into video form for some of the stuff, okay? Let's see here. In addition, busing on the lookout, human trafficking videos should also be shown. KDE has incorporated the ELDT requirements into the Kentucky school bus driver curriculum to eliminate the need for multiple training curriculums. Only one curriculum is needed to fill both state and federal training requirements with the KDE curriculum. If districts utilize the KDE curriculum, they can complete ELDT and the Kentucky School Bus Driver Certification simultaneously. Okay, so we have gotten our manual through the legislators. You guys already have it. Okay, that manual fulfills the training requirements for ELDT. Okay, so as long as you follow our manual, you will have provided the training for ELDT and the Kentucky School Bus Driver Certification at the same time, okay? The additional process that's going to happen is paperwork, okay? It's going to be paperwork. It's not additional training that you have to do because it's already in our manual or in our videos and documents. Okay, a school district may contract with another district to provide the theory training and or behind the wheel training. A student may also go to a CDL school to receive the training. It is essential to recognize that just because a student has finished the theory training, this does not mean they have completed our training to be a certified school bus driver. Okay, the Kentucky Driver Trainer Manual must be done in its entirety to qualify as a Kentucky school bus driver. So again, if you're sending them to a CDL school or to another district for their license training, like their permit or their license, they have not gone through our manual, you still have to train them. School districts may set up regional training centers where they provide ELDT training each week or every 2 weeks and allow applicants from schools around the region to come for the theory training. Then the participants can go back to their school districts to do behind the wheel portion. So what that means is, and I used Henry County yesterday. So if Henry County sets up theory every Monday, they're going to provide training for theory. Okay, so that's a 5-day class just for the theory training. Then they allow other districts from around the area to send their applicants to Henry County to do the theory not behind the wheel, just the theory, just the book. Okay. And then they will certify the driver and send the FMCSA the document saying that they have completed theory. Then the driver will come back to you and you do all the behind the wheel stuff from beginning to end. Okay. And so That is an idea for you districts, especially if you only have onesie twosies. You know, check with the other district to see if they're willing to do an MOA or some type of contract where you guys would reimburse them for the cost, or you don't reimburse costs, you guys switch. You know, this week we're going to do it, next week, you know, you can do it. You know, whatever your school district decides is, you know, is okay, as long as it's all being taught. So contracts, some school districts may require their drivers to be under contract for a certain amount of time for providing or paying for the ELDT training. It is not a requirement of that school district to provide copies of the completed tests and documents to the driver if they have not fulfilled their contract. Okay, so right now, a lot of you will send a lot of your drivers, or some of your drivers may go to another district, and there's controversy over whether or not they're going to send you their records or whatnot. If that driver has a contract, a written contract with the school district that says, I'm going to provide you 6 months of service, or I'm going to provide you a year of service before we'll transfer the documents, they may have a fee for that person to pay, or for the school district, whichever one wants to pay for it, or you just start their record all over again. Okay, so that is up to the districts, and that is going to depend on what your district decides with the other district. The costs for the driver or the new employer must be to reimburse, they also should provide any costs that the driver or new employer must reimburse to release the record. So in that contract, make sure it says how much that person is going to have to pay. And you can do the cost of training and prorate it by month, or you could have a flat fee of like $100, $75, whatever your district decides. Okay. Only documentation required by the FMCSA or Kentucky to give the driver is a certification that ELDT was provided if complete. Okay, and that's a certificate we'll go over in a little bit. Online theory training. Some school districts may determine that they would like to provide ELDT theory training through an online program. Online training is acceptable for the theory portion. However, the district will still need to ensure that the driver goes through the Kentucky curriculum to be a certified bus driver. Using an online program only duplicates training requirements and extends the training program. So if you're going to have them go through some type of online training program to do the ELDT to get that done with, and maybe that keeps you out of the classroom for a week, you're still going to have to go back and give them the Kentucky school bus curriculum. So you might as well, if you can, do both of them together, meaning our manual, and forgo that online training. I do know that many districts will have an online training for the permit process. Absolutely. Permit process is not required. Permit process does not require entry-level driver training. It's after the permit and before they go to the examiner that ELDT is required. So we're going to talk about examples here, and I'll have 3 examples for you. The first example is a school district starts the theory training and then takes the student to the bus to work on behind the wheel and training. Behind the wheel training range. Upon completion of both areas, the school district provides the Class B and endorsement tests. The student must stay with that training provider through the whole process or start over somewhere else because the training is combined. Okay, so if you are a district that does the manual and you'll do 3 chapters and take them outside, and then you come back and do a couple of chapters and take them outside again, that's combined training. So, you know, your district is determining that training is not complete until the very end. The second example is a school district does all the classroom training but does not give the final tests. The student then decides to go somewhere else before they take the tests. They must complete the training from the beginning wherever they go. The student because they did not complete the test is what certifies that they have comprehended the required training. So our manual has a bunch of tests in it, and the 50-question test will complete the Class B training, okay? But we also have P and S endorsements. So we have 2 other tests for the P and S endorsements. If they have not completed the P and S endorsements, they have not completed, they cannot be signed off as completing ELDT for that, okay? But their Class B, they have, and so if they ask for their certificate, you guys decide whether all of that is combined or not, okay? The order that you provided in is very important, okay? If you provide them with the P&S endorsement, that's the end of the classroom training, then they have completed theory, and you'll have to upload that information to the FMCSA, okay? And so that portion will be done, and so that person would not have to do theory anywhere else. If you don't give them the P&S endorsements and they decide to leave, then they have to do P&S endorsement all over again. And for Kentucky, if they go to another school district, it's going to be the whole curriculum all over again.
Elisa.
Yes.
Jamie Kendrick said that cut out. Could you repeat? I'm going to ask that if Jamie has a specific question, he unmutes and asks the question instead of having you repeat the whole section.
I don't think he can unmute. Yeah, they don't have the option to unmute. So he can ask the question in the chat.
Yes. Jamie.
Questions for P and S.
There you go.
Okay, so the P&S endorsement, we have 2 additional tests. In order for someone to be signed off on for the P&S endorsement for ELDT, they have to complete those tests. So if you provide those tests before you go behind the range, then the Class B with P&S are complete, and you have to upload the information to the FMCSA for the Class B with P&S. Okay. Example 3. A school district does all the classroom training and gives the final test for Class B and endorsements. The school district must provide them the certification for the theory portion of the training and upload the documents, which we just said, and the student may now go to another training provider for behind the wheel. Okay, so if you have a student that, as I stated earlier, where you're combining the training, you don't have to upload the documents until all of that training is complete. If you have a student that leaves before your theory is completed, they do not get a certificate. So if they don't complete all 3 tests, they don't get their certificate, okay? If you have a student that has completed all the theory curriculum and the tests, they don't have to complete the theory training when they go somewhere else. They just have to do behind the wheel and range, okay? Now, you decide when you give those final 2 tests, right? So you have the right to hold those final 2 tests until you're pretty much done with the over the road and range, so that they have not completed everything to fulfill the requirements of ELDT. I hope that makes sense. Let's see, what questions do we have?
Question 1 is, are you providing the tests for the P&S?
Yes, they will be uploaded before February. They're not quite there yet, so we'll have them before February.
Okay, and then Jonathan Hubbard said, will our driver trainers still have to complete a skills test with third-party examiner, which I answered yes to. And then Thomas Mulcahy, will the test be provided to us as driver trainers, which you just answered, and that's the last question.
And they'll be available on SharePoint. Okay, if there's no questions for that, we'll talk about the permit process. A person that has received their CLP, Commercial Learner's Permit, prior to February 7th, 2022, does not need to complete ELDT requirements. If the permit expires after February 7th, 2022, the person may be able to renew it without being required to go through ELDT requirements. That's going to depend on the Kentucky State Police, I believe, and what they will accept, and KYTC, what they'll accept. However, they must still go through the third-party examiner or the Kentucky State Police and the Kentucky curriculum to be certified school bus drivers. A school district, basically, it's the same process that you do now. Okay, so if they have their commercial learner's permit, you just file already before February 7th, 2022. Go on and do what you're doing right now without the extra paperwork. Only after the curriculum and the skills tests are complete can a driver be entered in the KDE driver database and become a certified school bus driver. No person should be entered into the database unless they have completed all steps to be a certified school bus driver. Just because they get their CDL doesn't mean they're done, okay? You have to do everything that you do right now in order to enter them into the database. Again, ELDT is the training between the time they get their permit and the time they go to the third-party examiner or KSP. It is a training required by the feds, which is our curriculum as well, okay? And they have to receive that before they can go and get their exam or their skills test. Commercial learner's permit after February 7th, 2022. A person that receives their CLP or commercial learner's permit at February 7th or after must complete all ELDT requirements and the Kentucky requirements to become a school bus driver. Again, ELDT requirements is our manual with extra paperwork, okay? They will need to complete all written tests, including the Class B, passenger, and school bus endorsement. Class B is going to be specific chapters in our book, and they have to receive at least an 80% on all of those, and we will go over that as well. Once all tests are complete, the school district will upload the certification to the FMCSA website, certifying the theory training has been provided. In addition, once the student has completed the behind the wheel range and road portion of the training, this information must be uploaded to the FMCSA website, certifying it has been provided and complete. A school district may determine that both pieces of training are complete when the entire curriculum is complete, or they may split the training, as we've talked about. If the training is split, they must upload the documentation as soon as the training is complete, and we'll go over the time frame for that in a little bit. Once the ELDT is complete, the district may set an appointment with a third-party examiner or KSP for the driver to complete the required testing. Now, you're thinking, I have to wait to be able to set up the exam when I know they're going to be done by a certain date. Right now, KSP says yes, but they're starting to understand the type of issues that may be created. So they're looking at the ability for them to confirm the morning of that test that all documents have been uploaded. If they have not been uploaded, then the test will not be given that day. So you have to make sure that they're done. In addition, you cannot just take the document to them and say, hey, we're done with the training. It has to be at the FMCSA, which goes to our Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, which then goes to KSP or something like that. But all three of them are involved in this, and KDE is out of that. Let's see, only after ELDT, the Kentucky curriculum, and the skills tests are complete can a driver be entered in the database and become a certified bus driver. No person should be entered into the database unless they have completed all steps required to be a certified school bus driver. CDL with endorsement, without endorsements on or after February 7th, 2022. Sometimes you will, if you're lucky, you receive applicants with a CDL but without the endorsements. In this case, the driver must go through ELDT for the endorsements. So our curriculum, the students will need to go through the full Kentucky curriculum, which covers the theory and the behind the wheel training. Once this is complete, provide them with the P&S endorsement tests and behind the wheel training requirements. Upload the documentation to the FMCSA website, certifying it has been provided and complete. Only after ELDT, the Kentucky curriculum, and the third-party examiner's testing are complete can a driver be entered into the KDE driver database and become a certified school bus driver. Again, no person should be entered into the database unless they have completed all the steps required to be a certified school bus driver. I think you're seeing a pattern here, right? We are going into districts and finding that your drivers, in some cases, and this is not for every district, but if you're one of the districts, hear me out, you're entering drivers into the database certifying that they're good to go, but they don't have their paperwork in order. If your driver trainer file is not in order, your drivers are not certified. If they're missing tests, they're not certified. If they haven't done their review 2 and it's past due, they're not certified. If they have not done their review 3 and they're past due, they're not certified. So before we do a review for your district, you want to make sure that they are complete. Okay. We have literally gone to districts that pretty much have no file for their drivers, and that's unacceptable. Even if you were not the driver trainer when they were trained, if they don't have it in their records, get them trained. Okay. If you have any questions, contact Joe Shepard here at KDE, and he will kind of help you walk through the process. It's best for us to know ahead of time versus us calling and saying, hey, we're coming out there tomorrow and having paperwork missing. So please do a review of your paperwork. I know you guys got a lot going on, but it's really for your benefit. If you don't have your paperwork in or, put together, and there's an accident on a driver that was not properly certified, the lawyers are going to have a time picking everything apart. Okay, so this is just for your benefit as the driver trainer to make sure everybody is properly trained. And I will have a form for you in a little bit to help you determine if you've got everything that you need. So what if somebody comes to you with a CDL with endorsements? Lucky you. In that case, where a driver already has their CDL with endorsements, a school district only needs to put the applicant through the Kentucky curriculum, enter them into the driver database once all training is complete, and there's no need to go through the additional steps for ELDT. Questions?
No, ma'am, nothing at this moment.
Okay, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to type in your questions if you have any before I move on. Okay, nothing? I'm going to continue.
You're good to go.
All right. Documentation process. Upon completing ELDT, does a driver from another state have to go through the manual? Yes. Don't know what that question is quite pertaining to, but all drivers have to go through our manual. Now, if you're talking about ELDT, if they don't have an actual license, they still have to go, they get their commercial learner's permit from the state that they live in, because that's where they're going to get their driver's license. And ELDT is nationwide. We all have the same requirements for it, so you can put them through our manual. You don't have to go to their state for their specific rules because ELDT is all the same.
Okay, I think I can get this one, Lisa.
Thank you.
We have a driver from another state with CDL and endorsements. They still have to go through the manual. It does not matter at what training they have. If they're a bus driver, if they're a city driver in another state, it does not apply in Kentucky. They will have to go through the school bus training. So even if they come from another state and they are a school bus driver, it doesn't apply in Kentucky. Hope that cleared that up.
Upon completing, okay. Okay, upon completing ELDT requirements, training providers must upload the training certificate that complies with the FMCSA regulations 49 CFR 380.513 and 380.717. KDE has created a form with the requirements. School districts may use this form or any form they choose, but must ensure that everything is compliant with the FMCSA. A copy must be given to the driver who has completed the training. We will go over that form shortly. KDE requires a training record. Basically, you guys should know what we require. Training record, either electronic or paper, the application with data hire, current contract for all drivers, including substitute drivers. Even if the thing with the substitute drivers is all employees should have a contract. The contract does not have to give the number of hours that they will receive or the days. You can say as needed, okay? They need to have their proof of education, a copy of the current physical, a copy of the current CDL, their initial MVR, proof of CPR and first aid completion. If they've had CPR or have a card saying that they're CPR and first aid certified, that's fine. We just want to make sure they have it and it's up to date, okay? All chapters and road tests, which must be graded, signed by the driver trainer and dated reviews 1 through 3. And as I just stated, reviews 1 through 3, if they are not complete, they are not certified. Obviously, if they haven't gotten to their 45 days, the review 2 isn't done. It doesn't need to be done until that 45th day. You can do it anytime in between, but you have up to 45 days. After that 45 days, they're no longer certified. Okay. If you have a window of planning. If there's any documentation that is not complete, the driver cannot be considered certified. Okay. The ELDT applies whether they're in state or out of state. If you have a specific situation, please contact Monica or Joe, and they will help you through this. All right. Personnel file. Items that must be complete should be items that must be complete but should be kept in a personnel file are the initial drug test, an alcohol test, KSP background check, CHFS can check, and the FMCSA clearinghouse check. Other documents required by the district may also be kept in the personnel file. On an annual basis, school districts must complete the FMCSA clearinghouse check, and many districts do an MVR records check. And that MVR records check can also be kept in the personnel file.
Okay, Lisa, you have a couple questions. Donna Grant, just to clarify, 45 school working days or calendar day?
I don't remember what the reg says. We'll have to look at 080.
Okay, and Shannon says, so all drivers have to have a CPR first aid card?
No. If you have someone that comes to you that says they're already certified, then you can use their information. You just want to make sure that they have the training. If they have a card, that means they're actually certified. Okay. We don't require our drivers to be certified. We just require them to have training. Some of your drivers are EMS, firefighters, things like that. If they have a card, we're going to accept it. Just have a copy on file. All right.
One last one, please. What if it's expired? Do they have to renew?
If it's expired, provide them the training. Because if it's expired, you don't know, they need to have training again. The FMCSA requires the certificates for ELDT to be kept for 3 years. Elena, if you can contact Joe afterwards, that would be greatly appreciated. The FMCSA requires the certificates for ELDT to be kept for 3 years after being uploaded to the FMCSA TPR. The Kentucky for Libraries and Archives requires training files to be kept for 3 years after termination. This would include ELDT certificates, and the certificates may be kept in their training folder. All right, I'm going to go to your questions because I see them. If we train at the 8-hour update, is this good enough? If it is proper training by a certified CPR and first aid trainer, yes. If we do the first aid as a group at our 8-hour update, what do we put in the training file? The sign-in sheet. If reviews are not completed in a timely manner, the driver is no longer certified. But are they able to drive with students between 1 and 3? No. If they did not complete their reviews, they are no longer certified. So review 1 needs to be done between 1 and 5 days. If it's not done, then they're no longer certified until they have it done. If between the 1 and the end of 2, and if they haven't done their training by the end of 2, which is 45 days, which we extended from 30 days, at day 46, they are no longer certified. And the same thing with the 3 to 6 months. You have 3 to 6 months to plan it out. If they don't have it done by the end of the 6-month date, then they are no longer certified. Okay. We have found across the state that has been neglected, and so we're going to start enforcing that we may decertify drivers. So plan it out. Know when you're going to do it. Don't wait till the 45th day and say, oh, they're out. I can't do it next week. Okay. You need to plan it out and get it done before the end date. The end date is just that. It's the end date that you have to have it done by, not do it on. It has to be done by. So between 30 and 45 days, if you decide on day 31 that you want to do it on day 31. Okay, you have time between to do it. So you have between, what did I say, 5 and 45? If you do it on day 5, you can do their driver 2 on day 7 or 9. Okay, you can get that complete. Will the sign-in sheet work for the 8-hour update? If it is actual CPR training, yes, but you can only use 2 hours of your 8-hour update for CPR training. And usually I think it's about 4 hours. So each certified trainer has a curriculum that they have to go through. It's basically going to be CPR certification without the actual certification part, without that final test. So, and we were lucky not to have it be certified because that's an extra cost to the district. However, that may come back and bite us, and they may say that we're going to have to that it's going to be updated. But right now, that's just the way it is. We'll have this available to you because it is still recording. So we will get back with us when you on Monday. Below. All right. So we're going to go over the first document. This one. So this is the first document that we have that you would need to upload to the FMCSA if you choose to use this form, okay? It has everything that the FMCSA requires. You can create your own form, or you can create a form that has just the theory portion and then certification and then just the behind the wheel portion, or you can use this one, okay? Whatever your district decides to do. You can take this and put your logos on it if you want, whatever you guys decide to do. Make sure that your drivers or other employees do not have access to this where they might be able to upload it, okay? So After an individual completes the training administered by the provider listed on the training provider list, that provider must, by midnight of the second business day after the driver trainee completes the training, electronically transmit the training certification information through the TPR website. By midnight of the second business day after the trainee completes. Do not complete them on Monday and wait till Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Okay, it's the second business day after. Electronically transmit the training certificate information through the TPR website. When a road test is successfully completed, the person who gave it shall complete the driver road test section. The original or something's going on upstairs. The original or copy of the certificate shall be retained in the employing motor carrier's driver qualification file of the person examined, and a copy should be given to the person who was examined. It is required to give them this documentation. So on this form, driver's name, social security number, license number, permit number, state, type of bus, type of training. So if you're just providing training for theory, is it just the Class B, or are you doing passenger endorsement or passenger and school bus? So where might that come into play? You have technicians. Your technicians may only need to do the Class B and passenger in order to drive their bus, but they're not doing the school bus endorsement because they're not driving with students. Okay, so you just give them the tests that go along with this. This one is the whole manual, is the manual, and we'll go over that. This one has an additional test, okay? And then you complete the behind the road. If you're doing just, you get somebody that has completed their theory, and I believe you're going to be able to look their information up in the database, the TPR database. So they can say they've had it done, but if they're not in there, you have to start over. So if you're doing just behind the wheel because they've come to you with the theory, what are you doing the behind the wheel for? Class B, passenger, or school bus endorsement? You're going to put them through our whole curriculum anyways. So you're doing behind the wheel and then whatever they need. Okay. And the same thing with the school bus endorsement. And if you're doing both, you circle both, but just circle everything that applies because you're scanning this in to the FMCSA. This has nothing to do with KDE. It has to do with the FMCSA. These are federal requirements. Certification of road tests, complete only if behind the wheel test is completed, otherwise NA. This is certifying that the above named driver was given a road test under my supervision on the date, consisting of approximately this many miles of driving. There is not a minimum number of hours and not a minimum number of miles, okay? However long that the final road test takes, meaning if you do the route ID is the last test, or like the vehicle operations, is it 3, 2? Whatever one is the one that shows that all of the stuff is complete, that they can do those skills successfully, that's the one that you're going to complete. It is in my considered opinion that this driver possesses sufficient driving skill to operate safely the type of commercial motor vehicle that is listed above. That is not our language. That is the FMCSA language, okay? So it's saying that they can drive this kind of bus. Obviously, this isn't going to be what they're subject to only driving. It just means that that's the one that they're testing in. So Kentucky, we test in what, the Class C, or the conventional type of bus. You know, then if they're doing conventional, put conventional. If they're doing rear engine, do rear engine. And then this information is uploaded to the FMCSA after you, the certified trainer, signs it and dates it. And then you put the school district name and address here. You may have a stamp for that, and that's absolutely okay for the school district name and address. A copy shall be given to the person who is examined. The school district shall retain the original in the qualification file of the person who was examined. Now, here, if you did not give the road test and you just did the theory, put NA. Put something so that they can't fill in the blank, okay? All right, so that's the first one. The next one is the attestation by the driver saying, oops, what did I just do? Saying that they are going to comply with the department, the DOT regulations, Part 40, 382, 383, and 391. So basically, they're going to follow the drug and alcohol testing requirements, substance and alcohol use and testing, CDL standards, requirements and penalties, qualifications of being a driver, as well as comply with all of the state requirements, and that they have provided you with a copy of their learner's permit or CDL as applicable in the regulations for Kentucky. The driver is going to sign, you're going to sign, then you're going to print, they'll print their name, you'll print your name, and here is the school district name and the training provider registry number. And once you guys have, once your directors have signed up, they should have a provider registry number. All right, so the next one is the checklist. All right, I'll make this bigger for you. Maybe. Helps if I push the right buttons. All right. You can use this, you can create your own, whatever, but we tried to make this so that you have everything that you need and it's easy for you to find it, okay? We just need to have it in some type of order that when our contractors come out, you guys, they can see that everything was complete, and then they can just scroll through it, okay? It would be best if stuff was in the order that it is on this sheet. So we have first the event, the completion date, and your trainer signature. So application, what day did they complete it? Sign off that it's done. You can put these on, I don't have a sample here, but those plastic sheets that you put in like Trapper Keepers or whatever, they have the 3 rings on the side. You can actually put that on the front of their folders and slide this in there, or you can staple it onto the front of their folders, or you can have it on the inside. But it would be best to, you know, have it some way that you can see it. So if you have it on the front of the folders with this, and you can easily see as you're going through who has or has not completed anything on their front page here, okay? There is a second page, so, but if things on the first page aren't done, things on the second page probably aren't done. So your application, sign and date, date of hire, sign and date, current contract, sign and date. When all of this is done, GED, high school diploma, or working towards, okay? We have talked to you guys as driver trainers what working towards means, and we'll go over it again this summer. But there are actual Kentucky, I don't know if it's statute or regulations that apply of what working towards means. They'll have their physical, their TB test. That's the same thing as their medical exam with your examiner. Initial drug and alcohol test, KSP background check, CHFS CAN check, initial motor vehicle records check, and each state the applicant held a driver's license in the last 10 years. That's for the initial motor vehicle records check. The initial clearinghouse check, current CDL, initial first aid and CPR, and we already discussed that. Review 1, 2, and 3. So review 1, 2, and 3 here obviously aren't going to be checked off immediately. I would put the date here of when it is due, okay? So that you can make sure you get it done before that date. The interview worksheet, which is no longer required by Kentucky, but a lot of districts like to use it because it's a good guide for them to use. And the initial road test, we don't require this any longer either. We talked about it in the past, and that It probably is best before you get them behind the wheel, but it's not a requirement. But a lot of districts still do it because they want to see how drivers are doing, you know, how they do before they even get them in the classroom, and that's fine. You can do it. It's not required. All right. Adequate classrooms. Again, clean, safe environment, and you need to have a bathroom wherever that classroom is. The range, there needs to be a clear line of sight, no obstructions, no cars, no equipment or anything in the way. It has to be a clear line of sight, and that's going to be for your range, which you should already have. There should not be other cars around because they're in training, and it's very easy for someone in training to hit whatever is there. Okay, so the FMCSA requires a clear line of sight. Now, your track doesn't have to be big enough to do everything. You may have to take it down and put something else up, and that is still fine. But don't have anything in the way of them being able to practice and maneuver whatever the situation is. Uploaded by midnight of the second business day. Now, these are the chapters that will satisfy Class B. Chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 11. Now, in the future, we hope to rewrite the 50-question test in order to satisfy this so that you just have one chapter to worry, or one test to worry about for the P&S endorsement, or excuse me, for the Class B requirements and the P&S endorsements. So we'll cross that bridge when we're able to, but it literally took a year to get our manual through the legislators. So we didn't start that process. We kind of want to see how things go, and then we'll address. We will all come back probably during the summer to see how things are going. Here you need to have the actual behind the wheel hours. Okay, so the date that the last training had behind the wheels, and put the total hours. You have to maintain how many hours that the driver has done for training. There is not a minimum number, but the FMCSA requires this. Same thing with your observation hours. How many hours were they in the vehicle observing, but not actually driving? So if you have someone riding with another driver, you know, kind of watching what the driver does, what's going on, whatever, that's observation hours. Okay. And so keep track of how many hours that is. You can have a document with start and stop times so that you can calculate it. And then you'll report that to the FMCSA. Please don't put the same number for all of your employees, because not everybody has the same skill level to be able to pass through these. So be accurate, because I think what the FMCSA is trying to do is seeing how much training employers are actually giving, and we want to be as accurate as possible, because if what we're doing as a nation is adequate enough, then they won't imply, you know, they won't put more restrictions on us. A lot of districts go above and beyond the minimum requirements of the manual, and that's great. Keep doing what you're doing. If you are doing just the bare minimum, you're giving them what's required by Kentucky, that's fine. But you may see that your drivers get into a lot of accidents or whatever because you haven't really made sure that they were proficient in driving. And when you sign off for ELDT, you are saying that person is proficient, and their driving record will show whether or not they are or not. So keep that in mind. You're saying that they are proficient at what they do. They can do everything more than once and multiple times, not just the first time and they're done. Behind the wheel self-certification, you'll have that for upload and signature. Class B behind the wheel completion, uploaded by midnight of the second day, and upload. These are all the chapters. We'll need the completion date, the score. Make sure that score is on their training, because we don't like to go through and Try and calculate what their score is. That's your job as a driver trainer. Please just put that on the front page. It will make life so much easier. And your training signature, the ones with the stars are the ones that complete the ELDT requirements. If any of those are missing, they haven't passed all the tests. Railroad test score, 100%. Load and unload, 100%. Vehicles ops 1, 2, and 3. So this is where I was saying, you know, between vehicle ops and road bus route ID, those two final ones would probably suffice for your final test because it has everything that's required for that driver to be able to do. Vehicle at speed 1 and 2, completion date, score, 50 question test. Again, they have to receive an 80% and enter the driver into the driver database once ELDT is complete and the driver's license is received, and everything on the first page that needs to be completed is complete. I know I'm a little bit over, so we're gonna just go through. This is the last one.
Alexa, Elisa, sorry.
Yes.
If you don't mind
No
doing an
worries.
attendance real quick, you might want to do
thank
that
you.
before people leave.
Yeah, please don't
And then
leave.
you do have some questions as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish this and then I'll get to the questions because this is the last part. But thank you for reminding me about attendance because we have 92 people in. Okay, even though I took attendance, please don't jump out because I got a couple more things. All right. This is your retention schedule. Many of you have had people leave. You don't know how long things need to be done. You're doing cleanup in your office, whatnot. FMCSA certificates for ELDT need to be held for 3 years after upload. What I would do is put the destruction date file here, the destruction date, so you know how long you have to keep their record for. Classified personnel training file, 3 years after termination. Whether they're deceased or not, you need to keep it for 3 years after the termination date. Okay, so whatever that final date is that you guys put in your system, that's how long you have to keep it for. School bus driver evaluation file. Everybody's supposed to receive an evaluation on an annual basis, so it's 5 years after the last entry. So every 5 years you can get, where every year you can get rid of, you know, the one that was done 5 years ago. Medical examination report for school bus drivers. These two are on our retention schedules as two different things, but I think they're the same thing. However, some school districts actually do a physical fitness, meaning they test to make sure the driver can get up and down the stairs, you know, within so many seconds without stopping. They test to make sure they can get to the back of the bus and so many, you know, in so long. They also drag a bag or something, you know, so many feet and so many pounds. That can be considered the school bus physical fitness certification. Okay. And then 60 years from the date of hire, all of this stuff here, that's typically their personnel file. All right. One last thing and then we're done. ELDT booklet. This is what I'll be mailing you on Monday along with everything that you need. It has everything in it. All right. So you will have everything that you need next week because again, I am leaving shortly. So I won't be able to do it today. Make sure that you signed the link. Monica, if you could put it in there one last time, make sure you go in and update your information so that we have it. One of the questions in there is, are you willing to help train drivers from another district? Okay, you don't have to, but what you need to know is that a lot of districts have lost a lot of drivers, whether it's to COVID, whether it's for personal reasons or whatever. They've lost a lot of driver trainers as well. And so there are many districts around our state right now that don't have driver trainers and they're looking for help. Okay, that's not to say they're trying to steal you from your district. Okay, they're looking for help. And so if you're willing to train drivers in new drivers for other counties, you can create an MOA, you can create a contract, but whatever you do, if you do that February 7th or after, you need to be entered into their TPR system in order to be able to train for entry-level driver training. Okay, so just make sure when you go to the new to whatever district you're helping, if you're going to them and they're not coming to you, you're entered in their training provider registry, because it's by location, not by trainer. So you can be in more than one TPR. That's really important, because you don't want to be signing documents and then not be eligible because you're not listed. Okay. All right, so let's get to some of these questions, and I'll scroll up here to see what I have missed.
Okay, start at Cindy Dillon, 1125. Will we need to upload after each training section, or can we upload once all is complete? And from that point down, please.
Okay. 1125, where are you? Okay, all right. So it really depends on how your district is doing it, what you say the completion time is. You can certainly hold the P and S endorsements until after the road and have them take that, and then the training is complete after they finish all the tests, right? So you can certainly hold on to those, but once you finish those, it's really going to be how you do the training and what you decide, and say up front, training is complete when ABC. But to be safe, especially since people are sue happy, if that makes sense, I would wait to give those final tests until after they've completed their road test. That just makes sense to me. Do the clearinghouse and MVR reports and can checks need to be in the driver notebooks, or can they be kept? They can be kept in the personnel file. They have social security numbers on them. You can keep them in the personnel file. So we will have 2 additional tests, P and S. Yes. Okay. Is there a standard amount of hours needed for trainees to observe a current driver? No. We're building the standard by entering this information into the database, and the FMCSA will tell us probably after a year what's normal, what's not. Well, the trainees, this has nothing to do with the learner's permit. So everything that they're doing to get their learner's permit, they're still doing. Okay, this is from the learner's permit forward. Now, you have somebody that went to get their learner's permit, but they failed, and so now they have like 3 weeks to wait, or 2 weeks, whatever it is. Then you can provide this training in between there, again, holding those final tests. So like the last CDL test, holding or one of those tests with the P&S endorsements, so that they have to come back if they want to complete the training. Otherwise, they have to start all over from the beginning. But everything before that CLP, everything after that CLP is ELDT and Kentucky school bus driver. But up until the point that they get it, you may or may not provide them with the entry-level driver training. You as driver trainers are going to know how capable they are. Maybe they were, test anxiety or whatever, and you're pretty confident that they'll probably pass the second time. You can provide the training, have them get it, come back to you, and get over the road done. All right. Is the 60 years in driver, is that 60 years in driver info? I don't know what that means, but the retention schedule is 60 years from data hire. You have to keep their personnel file, and everything that I listed there on that document is what needs to be done. I'll put that back up for you. So do KSP and CAN checks go in personnel file or training file? Will you give a new required document list for each file to us? This is in the manual or in the guidebook, okay, for all of you, so you will have it. And yes, that all can go in their personnel file. This is what's going to happen when we come into the district and we want to look at those documents. They have to be made available to us. Okay. I have a feeling I'm missing something. Yes, I am. The learners, or yeah, the appointments for learners permits. We haven't heard any issues in the past month. Okay. I heard of one yesterday. If your drivers are 2 and 3 and 4 weeks out, actually 3 weeks is as far as you can go, really, email us give us the name, the driver's license number, and a phone number for a contact, and we will work with KSP. You need to let us know which regional office that you're going to and what other locations you have tried. We will help you. They will help you. KSP will help you get them in as soon as possible. It may be the next day, it may be the same day because of a cancellation, okay? But they're doing the best that they can to help us get through that process as quickly as possible, okay? Or they may say have them come in, and in between people, they will get them in. So just please let Joe or myself know. If you email me today, I won't see it because I won't be back till Monday. But if you email today, get it to Joe, and Joe will get it to Sergeant Perry, who will work with wherever you're trying to get into. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
I think that is it. So you did the KSP and can checks go in personal file or training file.
Yep.
I think that's it.
All right, guys. That's it. I'm sorry I took you for over 15 minutes past our time. I'm so sorry, but you are good to go. Please make sure that you log out of this meeting. I'm going to end it shortly, and please don't try and message back in here because we'll probably archive this. It is being recorded. I am saving it so you can go back over it again. If you have any driver trainers in your districts that did not take this, please send me a message or Joe a message so that we can see how many more people still need to take it. Okay. But I appreciate you guys. You guys have gone through a lot. It's been a really rough 2 years. Some of you are brand new into this and you've come in the middle of COVID and nothing is the way we normally do it. So please, thank you. I want to please hear my thank you, my team's thank you to everything that you guys do every day to keep our kids safe. Any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here for you. And I'm sorry if I asked you to reach out to me directly or Joe directly, but it sounds like you might have specific situations and we just want to make sure we give you the correct information for your situation. So have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful holiday. Enjoy your families. Bye.